This podcast provides a platform for our guests to share their experiences and inspire our listeners to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. As you listen, we invite you to explore how these concepts apply to your own story. You know what to do. Be great and be grateful. We're mic'd up with Mike DiCioccio. Hey guys, I'm bringing you a legendary author and inspirational speaker today. Our guest has written the GoGiver series with John David Mann. It's available in 28 different languages, and Inc. magazine and HubSpot have both listed GoGiver as one of the most motivational books ever written. It's now closing in on 1 million book sales. For 30 years, our guest has helped companies, sales leaders, and their teams more effectively communicate their value, sell at higher prices with less resistance. That's the key. And grow their businesses based on endless referrals. Our guest today has shared the stage with other top thought leaders, broadcast personalities, Olympic athletes, and political leaders. Welcome to the show, Bob Burg.
Hey, Mike, it's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
This is awesome, man. I've been looking forward to this personally for a few weeks now.
Thank you.
We met digitally in this quarantine that we're still in as we're recording this. But I couldn't start the show without thanking two gentlemen, Matt Carlucci and John Osberg, who connected us during their event as well.
Two great guys.
You were hitting home on so many points. I bought your book. I did start reading it. What I love about doing my podcast is I'll never run out of reading material because every other guest has a great book out, and I want to make sure I'm reading them in order as they come in, right? So this is excellent. I want you to do a little introduction. If somebody right now is listening, maybe they don't know you, which could be crazy, but it's possible, right?
A lot of people.
Yeah, let's share a little bit more. I gave a lot in that bio, but if you want to just talk about some of the things that you really make you, right? So who's Bob Burg, if you're going to chat with someone, right?
Yeah, well, really, I began as a broadcaster and graduated into sales, and it was really through learning, first understanding that I knew nothing about sales, right, and then learning from so many other great ones and then learning that a lot of sales was really about personal development, developing yourself and growing on the inside, and that success manifesting on the outside. And once I really put it together in terms of, and again, learning from other people, that it was really not about the salesperson, it was about the person you're serving, that's when it really hit another level of success. So, that's really, I think, what it's all about when we can, just as we talk about it, in the GoGiver, basically, that when you can shift your focus off of yourself and place it onto others, that's when really you begin developing those relationships. And I know you're a master relationship builder, and that's all I've heard about you from others and how great you do with that. And, and I think so you and I probably come from that very same place, that same philosophy.
Yeah. Well, the saying is your network is your net worth, but I'll tell you, it's not that you build your relationship simply because someone can give you something immediately in return. People are going to see through that. They're going to smell that from a mile away. That's not what we're talking about here. It's about building value for other people, right? So they know, like, hey, if I call Mike, he's going to help me with these things because I know he's great at it. He's great to be in my circle of friends and network. And then at the same time, they're doing that for you, right? But I want to make sure you explain it because you do so extremely well. Right out of the gates in the book, chapter 1, there's 5 key value points that I'll have you talk about, but really, the difference is that you're talking about being a go-giver opposed to a go-getter, which we hear that be a go-getter a lot, kind of in sales and management. It's give exceptional value and enjoy extraordinary results, right?
Mike, the only thing I'd say about that, though, is, and I think this is really, my fault, really, that we didn't explain this in more detail in the book, and I think we should have in retrospect, and that is we would say that the opposite of a go-giver isn't a go-getter, because we like go-getters. Go-getters take action. They get things done. Sure. We would say the opposite of a go-giver is a go-taker. That's the person who feels almost entitled, if you will, right? To take without having added value to the person.
Oh, that is sharp, right? Kind of a sharp like a shark in the water almost. Like
Yeah. And so, so it always, of course, depends how we define a term. So if we think of a go-getter as someone who's just out for the get, yeah, exactly. But we would say that's more of a go-taker, whereas a go-getter is someone who is, they're a person of action.
right.
And like in the story, Joe, the protagonist, he was a go-getter, but he was also a go-taker. And that's what made it so that the harder he worked, the less he seemed to accomplish, because all that getting and getting wasn't really getting him anywhere. He was right. And
Yeah.
so so that's what, that's how we would kind of, but I you're right though. And I think we probably should have explained that better in the book. And we didn't.
I'm glad you paused to do so, because, again, if someone's tuning in and they're interested in the GoGiver, again, it's a little story about powerful business idea, or one major powerful idea. Also, I want you to share a little bit about your first gig in sales. I think some people, maybe they know the books, they see what you're doing. They can follow you at Real Bob Burg on Instagram, and you're simply at Bob Burg on Twitter and LinkedIn. Your website's easy to find. It's burg.com, and that's where people can really go. And I wanted to tease this real quick, and I'll have you kind of answer that question about how you got into sales too. You got a 2-day workshop coming up. I'm excited to see this. July 20th and 21st. People can tune in, endlessreferrals.com, and then there's also a link that I'll have as well where they can sign up for that course. So tell us about how you got started in sales. Some people don't wake up one day and say, I want to be a salesman, right?
No, well, I was a really lousy broadcaster, and I thought that's what I wanted to do, but I was really lousy at it. I could read the news, that wasn't an issue, but I had no idea of the news. I was 24 years old. I had no clue in terms of what was news, and I really didn't care, and had I had an opportunity to host a game show, I think I'd have been much better suited for that. I could have just had fun and but that wasn't where I was. And so just to make some extra money, or to make some money, because I knew I wasn't long for the sales business, I got a job part-time, then full-time in sales. The challenge was I knew nothing about sales, and the company where I worked, we'll just say their training was negligible at best, not negligent, but negligible.
Sure.
And I mean, it was kind of non-existent actually. So I floundered really
You're being
bad.
nice. I can pick up on it.
I floundered badly for a few months. Fortunately, and this is almost 40 years ago now, and I was in a bookstore, and I'm not exactly sure what I was looking for. I was in the business section, but I saw there was a sales section, which again, right now, no big deal. 40 years ago, that was not so much a known thing.
Right.
Okay. And so I was just elated. A sales section, books on how to sell. You mean there's something more than just knocking on doors, making phone calls, and blah, 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 talking about your product? I mean, because that's all I did.
Yeah.
And the two books, one was by Tom Hopkins and one was by Zig Ziglar, two magnificent legends, of course.
Absolutely.
And so I got their books, and I mean, I would, after work, I would till the wee hours of the morning, I was reading, studying, memorizing, underlining, highlighting, note taking, and it really, within a few weeks, my sales began to go through the roof, which was fascinating to me, because it was really the first time I realized that if you have a methodology for doing something, a system, if you will, you can pretty much accomplish what it is you're looking to accomplish. To this day, I personally define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. The key is predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired result of B, then you know that all you need to do is A, and continue to do A, and continue to do A, and eventually you'll get the desired results of B. Well, that was, to me, just an amazing thing to understand. And that's really when I started to love sales. And
How old are you at this point in the story here?
I was 24. I had to be 25.
Yeah, mid-20s. Okay, so I think that's pretty similar. That's very similar to myself. I was in my mid-20s when I got my first official sales job, high-ticket sales type situation. And I have to agree. I want to stay on this real quick. You talk about having a system in place, and that's when your excellence began. Because I notice, speaking for myself, but also I want my audience to tune into this and pay attention here. I noticed the same thing with myself. I had a system in place that was given to me by a company. I had the opposite situation. I actually had really good training where I almost was like resistant because I was like, oh, I'm me. You know, I don't want to be a robot with a script.
Right.
You're telling me how I'm going to talk to a person that you don't even know because they're coming into my store. But then once I stopped and listened, it's very much like sports. I talk a lot about sports analogies because for me, I think it's simple to make it make sense. For most people, they understand it. It's like having a playbook. Here's the coach saying, here's your playbook. We're going to practice these over here, right? We're going to shorten the field up, tighten up your game. And then eventually there's going to be an opponent, which I don't like using that word for a client or prospect, but there's someone else that you're dancing with, right? There's two people there or a couple people more than that. If there's a husband and wife coming in, whatever that looks like. And now you have a system in place. You're not just throwing blind darts all over to try to figure out what to do, you know, and there's a whole process. I'm not going to try to explain what you have in store for us, but I really like that. So have a system, which is a process with predictability, because as you do it over and over, you can get better. You can shape it. You can mold it. And I just wanted to lastly say is I was able to change it eventually and make it my own once I understood it. A rookie needs to really do what's on the page. And someone who masters it over time, your personality can shine as you understand it really well, right? You can comfortably get through it without thinking about what's next.
Yeah, well, you took the words right out of my mouth with that last statement, because that's exactly what I was going to say. The system is the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in sports, you know, you have to, in football, you've got to block and tackle and run and be able to do that correctly. Once you know that, now you can kind of put your own spin to it. Now you can kind of, but you've got to first know the fundamentals. And baseball, you've got to hit and field and run and catch and, you know, and then you start to, and it's the same. So, and that's why it's so important to be humble enough to learn the system, master the system, and then you can move off. And you know, and I think it's also very important for people to know a system, if done right, should not control you. Okay, it doesn't control you, it helps you.
Right.
It guides you.
The foundation.
The system is right. The system is the servant, not the master.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, building a great band around a lead singer, right? You have that, they have that foundation, and now they can go and be themselves. Once the foundation is weak, they probably can't go into their full range because the rest of the guys can't keep up with them yet. Got to build that foundation. Let's go right back to endlessreferrals.com. And we mentioned the 2 workshops were again on July 20th and 21st. You know, many of our listeners and viewers, again, are in that sales, professional sales and entrepreneurship, right? Business reps. So asking for referrals is an art, in my opinion, right? And it's something I think that gets overlooked. People just assume, yeah, I get sales and eventually referrals come in. Not that simple. There is an art to asking for a referral correctly. Can you share your secret sauce on the show here and kind of give us a couple tips on how to do that professionally without just feeling like you're, you know what I mean? Some people have discomfort with asking for a referral.
Sure,
Let's help them out. Let's help them out.
Yeah. Well, the discomfort really comes from fear.
Mm-hmm.
And this fear is on several levels. One is simply the fear of rejection. You know, what if I ask and the person just doesn't want to give me referrals? And I don't think anybody likes rejection. Certainly most of us in sales, we're by nature, we're people persons, we're people pleasers, and we like to be liked. So when we think, well, what if they just don't want to, or what if they get mad at us, or what if they, and what if, and what if? And that's something we need to overcome personally in ourselves, because the fact is not everyone's going to want to refer, because not everybody is going to. Some people just don't. They never will. It's not personal. They just don't.
Right.
Other people will refer without you asking. Yeah. But the majority of people, and I'm going to say 90%, they'll refer, but they need to be asked. And they need to be asked correctly. So we need to get past that fear, perhaps by just, you know, doing a little bit of a mental exercise with ourselves and saying, hey, you know, the worst that can happen is someone says, no, I'd rather not. Big deal.
Right.
Okay. There's so many worse things in the world going on than someone saying no. Great book for you to get on this is called Go for No,
Mhm.
by Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton at goforno.com. It's a brief parable about a copying machine salesperson. And this book absolutely reframes no. There, it's basically no is the yes is the destination. No is how you get there. That's
Yeah.
their premise. It's a book I wish I had back when I was first starting in sales.
There's another part to that too, another like a separate layer to it where I had a mentor tell me, if someone cancels out on an appointment, that can really derail a salesperson's day. They feel like you're looking forward to it. You jump out of bed, you got this sales appointment you're excited to go to. They might cancel, renege, whatever. They're not there, and it can feel like it's ruining the day. Similar to asking and hearing no, no, no when you find out that that appointment's canceled. And they said, think about this. You just gained an hour of your day. What else can you do with that hour? The hour's not gone. The appointment's gone. But be excited that you just found more time to do something else that maybe is even better than the other one. And guess what? It all starts with your mentality. Same thing with going for no. I mean, if you hear no and you're really totally distraught by that, you need to start to change the mentality of, now, obviously, you need to improve your process if you're hearing more than you need to be with until you get to the yes. Obviously, we're not
Sure.
just saying blindly say, "Do you want this? Do you want this?" Like you have to have that strategy and structure.
Exactly.
But the
None of
point
this.
is, it,
Right.
it needs to be like again sports analogy. Quarterback's got to keep throwing the ball, even when they get an interception. They're going to come back and forget about it and go back to throwing the ball again.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Another reason for the fear is fear of talking past the sale, which of course you never want to talk past the sale, but that's a whole different animal. That's totally different. When you ask for referrals and you ask correctly, as we'll discuss, that actually is a very positive thing because it allows you to stay around with that person after they buy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will actually be welcome. There's a fear of appearing desperate by asking. Well, you never want to appear desperate, never want to be desperate. But no, if you ask professionally, it'll be just the opposite. You won't appear desperate. You'll appear as a person who understands the value they provide and is giving this person the opportunity to help share that with people they
Mm-hmm.
care about. And the other fear of asking is that you don't know how to ask correctly. That's a very legitimate fear, and we'll talk about that. So I think asking for referrals correctly comes in two stages. It's um, eliciting the person's buy-in to the idea, then it's asking in such a way that you set them up to succeed instead of fail. So the first part is the buy-in, and this is where you go. This is what I call the referral bridge or the bridge phrase. What is a bridge? Well, in the physical world, it's a structure that transports a person from one safe piece of land to another. In the referral world, the bridge phrase is a series of words that transports a person from one safe piece of land, the know, like, and trust relationship with this person, to another safe piece of land, uh, where they can where you can ask very comfortably, and both you and your referral source feels very comfortable with the process. And the referral bridge phrase is actually a very simple one, and you don't have to use it exactly like this, but I'll explain why I say it this way, and then the person can decide if they want to do that. And it's simply this, and I'm in the process of expanding my referral business, and I find it's helpful to partner with my clients and friends such as you. Can we take a few quick minutes and run past the names of some other people I might also be able to help?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so let's go through that little by little. And I'm in the process of expanding my referral business. So again, you're just with confidence, with posture, you're just letting her know. So you're signaling her as to what you're going to be asking. Or you might also say, Anna's more and more of my business now is through referrals. Okay. So again, however you want to do it. I'm in the process of expanding my referral business, or as more of my business is through referral. Now, here's the next part. I find it helpful to partner. Partner is a very key word because you're
Mm-hmm.
giving them buy-in to your success. To partner with my clients and friends such as you. Now, next part of the phrase. Can we take a few quick minutes and run past the names? Now, this is what I call fast language or quick language. You're not saying it quickly or fast, but the words you're using imply correctly that you're not going to take up a lot of their busy schedule. Listen to these quick words. Can we take a few quick minutes and run past? And then the names of some other people I might also be able to help. Now, why do I use the word might? Because I always want to communicate that they will never have to worry about me coming across in a way that's not totally appropriate, understanding that not everyone's going to be interested, and many people have had a situation where they referred a salesperson who made them look bad by being too pushy, not taking no for an answer, and so forth. So we're letting her know that there's always an out or a back door, okay, who I might also be able to help. Okay, so again, it would sound like, and I'm in the process of expanding my referral business, or as more and more of my business is now done through referrals, I find it helpful to partner with my clients and friends such as you. Can we take a few quick minutes and run past the names of some other people I might also be able to help? Okay. Now,
I like that too. I want to add, I love it. Again, partner with clients and friends. It keeps it kind of low key. Take a few quick minutes to run past. Like you said, it just implies quick. It's not going to take long, and then might help. I love that too, because like you said, the pressure's off, where they don't feel like you're going to beat everybody up. But in addition to all that, I think that's really well said. What's a key part too, let's not overlook it, is that you're asking for a couple names, and you're like asking them just to think on the spot of a couple names. It's not this, I'm going to send you something and you got to write out 25 people for me to call. Usually people can come up with some names on the spot. I think it's important to do it right in the moment, right?
Yep. Now, let's say you have the person's buy-in and they say, sure, that would be great, or what have you. Now you need to ask, but you need to ask in a way that, again, creates the environment for their success, as opposed to asking and they're saying, well, I can't think of anybody right now, but when I do, I'll call you, right? Or let you know, which we know is probably not going to happen, because out of sight, out of mind. And so this next part, I actually learned from Tom Hopkins in that initial book that I read from him years ago. I think he devoted half a page to this. And this one thing is a game changer. Okay. And what Tom says is, well, Mike, you've heard people say when asking for referrals, do you know anybody who, or who do you know?
Right.
And then, the person thinks about it and they think about it, but they can't think of anyone. Well, it's not their fault. As Mr. Hopkins explains, we're giving them too big a world. We're giving them too big a universe. I mean, I remember Joe Girard, his famous law of 250, right? That we each know about 250 people directly or indirectly. So when you say to someone, do you know anyone who, or who do you know? A collage of 250 nameless, faceless people go dancing past their head. They can't identify anyone. So what Mr. Hopkins brilliantly taught was to gently funnel down their world into small groups of people they can easily see. So for example, let's say Anne, who's our client and referral source. We know Anne is a very avid golfer. And we say, Anne, I know you play most weekends, right? She says, oh, every Sunday afternoon I'm out there, right? And except for when the Buffalo Bills are playing. Then she's of course not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm out there every Sunday afternoon. And we might say, do you play with different people every time, or are there kind of people who you, oh, no, same foursome we've been playing for years. Harry Brown, Michael Cloud, Dr. Mary Ruart, the four of us, we've been golfing buddies for years. Boom. He's just come up with 3 people. So now we can say, would Harry or Michael or Dr. Mary, would any of those 3, and now however you would say it based on your product or service, be interested in, be open to, however it would be based on your product or service. Now she may come up with all 3 of those names, or maybe 2, 1, none of them. It doesn't matter. We've created that correct context. Okay, she's able to think of people. That's a win. She feels comfortable now. So
Right.
now we move to another. We know she's a member of her NABO group, National Association of Women Business Owners. They meet once a month. Okay, their local chapter. We don't say, is there anyone in your chapter? Because it could be too big a chapter.
Sure.
We say, is there anyone in your chapter who you sit next to every time, or you serve on a committee with, or who, again, something that,
Right.
again,
Few
funnels it.
identifiers to narrow that 250 down to just a handful of names that they're going to be the most comfortable talking to, right? That
And we go and we give them a few different,
Yeah.
scenarios. It might be, we know she's she's on the board of directors of her local animal shelter.
Mhm.
So we know there's 4 others with her. She tells us there's 4 others. So now we go through those names. So in other words,
Mhm.
exactly as you said, making it very easy for her to identify. Now, eventually there's going to probably be a name. Once you get that first name, now they start to really, they trickle out, they flow out, they gush out, right? Because one person reminds her of another. And again, there's lots of other, we can ask, depending, again, upon what we do, we can ask about her colleagues in her company or in another company. It can be where she went to college or university and who she stays in touch with. It could be who she, who she goes to religious services with and is friends with. There could be a whole bunch of different things. It just depends on the.
Absolutely. What I want to do too is tie it right back to the go-giver mentality. So I appreciate that. And guys, if you're listening to this, guys and girls, you're a sales rep, you're out there grinding every day, hitting the phones, knocking on doors, go back and listen to that one more time, that referral piece right there, because there's a lot of really applicable notes. My sheet's running out of room on the bottom here from Bob. So let's talk about the go-giver mentality. Can you just walk us through? Joe's the character in the story that, so we can use Joe as an example. Can you give like one specific example so people can wrap their mind around something that he would do to be a go-giver and how it's beneficial to all parties, not only Joe?
Well, he's always connecting people with one another. He's always, whenever he comes across someone who may need a particular product or service, his first question to himself is, who do I know in my network who can help that person? And it may be a product or service, it may be information, it may be something entirely different. It might be that that this person's kid is looking for a job for the summer, and another contact knows someone who has a factory that is hiring kids and or doing internships or whatever it happens to be, and you make those connections.
Right. Oh, that's great. So, so it's not about the direct fit as yourself. It's I might have a friend that's looking for to learn how to do referrals, right? And I can send them to your workshop on the 20th and 21st. And then all of a sudden you see the name come through and I send you a quick email. Hey, my friend Bob is going to be coming through. And all of a sudden that person knows that, okay, Mike's paying attention, he cares, and you're actually helping out your network, right?
Yeah, you really, when you think about it, what you're doing, and of course you're an expert on branding, and you're developing a brand. What is your personal brand? Is your personal brand someone who is there for other people?
Right.
Who does a great job with their product or service, adds magnificent value to everything they do, and is also there and really cares about everyone in their network, whether they're doing business with them or not. And when that's your brand, right, is if that's how people see you, that I let another sports analogy, you're 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
There you go. Yeah. What I'd like to do here is talk more about the other books too, because is this the first one you recommend, and then there's others?
Yeah, that's the first in the series. Yeah.
And then talk about the series. Is there a particular order that the book should be read in?
It kind of depends. You could read them in any order, even though there are three of the books in the series are parables. Okay, the Go-Giver Leader, and the Go-Giver Influencer are parables. Go-Givers Sell More is sort of an application guide to the first one, the Go-Giver.
Cool.
But you could read the parables in any order, even though they're all in the same fictional town. And people who read the first one first and then the second one, and then will get some of the inside references to past, right? They all are also self-sustaining. So you could read the last one first, and then the first one second, and the third. It wouldn't matter. You'd still.
Okay.
But I would start out with the Go-Giver. I'd start out with the original one.
Yeah.
And I would then say probably for today's world, the GoGiver influencer, which is the last one in the series, I'd make sure to read that one too.
Yeah. It's kind of like Star Wars. You always want to start someone with episode 4, even though later there might be a couple other episodes.
Right.
That's the one. That's the first one that ever came out in history. So why don't we start people
Exactly.
with the first experience that anybody's ever had with that material? Let's go. We're in the middle of quarantine, so it's already a tough time for sales, right? I know it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You've been impacted by this either personally or indirectly with your company being impacted. What's a new skill that you learned? So I know you're the kind of guy that flips it and tries to figure out, all right, if I'm kind of in lockdown mode right now, how can I make that benefit me? So is there something that you learned through quarantine that maybe you wouldn't have learned if this whole thing didn't happen?
I think it's more just determining what you can control and what you can't first. I think successful people do that. They look at what is, okay, and they deal with what is. And they don't bury their head in the sand. And then they say, okay, this is this. And there are certain things I have no control over. Okay. And I deal with that. Then they ask, what do I have control over?
Right.
So in this case, especially early on, before businesses were beginning to open up again, there was no business happening. Okay. For most people. So you had to ask, how can I add value to my prospects, customers, and clients right now in such a way that first is just helpful for its own sake, but secondly, going to have me positioned as the go-to person once things open back up again. Right. And I thought we saw beautiful examples of that. People found ways to bring value to those in their network and those who are their prospective customers and clients, as well as their current ones.
Yeah, another shout out to Matt Carlucci and John Osberg. That's exactly what they were doing by bringing you in. You were someone of value. We may have done that whether there was a pandemic or not, but it was a networking event that also had, so it was a learning event, right? Like a workshop that we were able to do remotely. People all over the world could tune in because it was through Zoom. I mean, I think there's going to be some dangerous waters that some people are in where they kind of turned it off during this whole thing. Now they're going to try to catch up and things are already opening back up right now.
Right.
They got a longer distance to run, where if you were even doing a little bit consistently and working on some self-development and you're ready to open your doors again, you're not worried about it. If it's a storefront that just didn't stock anything for 3 months, they're going to need a big load to get everything back, right? Yeah. Opposed to someone who is maybe consistently doing it over time. I think that's great insight right there. I want to ask you about your biggest influence. You mentioned a couple names. Anyone maybe that wasn't on there? So Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar, anybody else you would send us to for great insight?
Oh, wow. There are so many. I've just been so fortunate to be able to both read books and listen to and watch and be on stage with and learn from all these magnificent teachers.
Yeah. Let me reverse the question. Let me ask you a different question. One of the books that a lot of people talk about, and I'm in the middle of reading it, and I highlight it. It's literally every other word is highlighted. It's so good. It's Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. What are your thoughts on that book? Just if someone hasn't read that yet.
Oh, well, that's one of those to get, along with Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and there's The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. I would say Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I mean, these are and I'll tell you another one, which is one of my all-time favorites. It was written in, I think, 1900 by Orison Swett Marden, called Peace, Power, and Plenty. He's the founder of Success Magazine. He was really the progenitor of the modern personal development movement. Another great one is the Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, written in 1910, and The Master Key System by Charles Haanel, written in, I think, 1912. He takes Wattles' book to like sort of the next level. But so, there are so many of these. And then, the books we talked about, like Go for No by Andrea. And, so there's the modern ones, as well as the, Ben Franklin's autobiography. To me, one of the best books ever in personal development.
Wow. I got to check that out. That I didn't think about on the radar, but it makes so much sense about what he meant for development and moving the forward thinker, right? So many great notes here. Thank you so much for giving that. I'm smiling over here because I unintentionally did something there. I asked you a question about naming a book, and you kind of were hesitant to come up with one title. Understandably so. Look behind you. There's hundreds of books on your shelf. But then I named one, and then that kind of triggered you to think of other books like it. And
That's
I
right.
said, Think and Great, Grow Rich. And you just named like 5 others, which is exactly what you're talking about with the referral. If I just said name one person, I might get a similar reaction. If I say, Kim that sits next to you, right? She has a husband and wife, and they have a beautiful home in Amherst. I'm an insurance salesman. That's actually who I'm looking for. Who else do you know that has a couple little kids running around at home? Oh, my cousin Susie, this, that, So I think that's awesome. Here's a question I want you to really dive into. So why do you do what you do? Is there something you had a moment where you felt called, like felt something tugging at your heart, telling you this is your calling?
I think I'm very fortunate to do something that I really just enjoy doing. And I feel, that hopefully it does make a difference in people's lives. And I think as human beings, we're sort of programmed to want to make a difference, to bring value to other human beings, to the world around us. I would say human beings and animals both, because I think that's both so important. But in terms of personal development and some of the things I speak on, communication skills and sales and so forth, it's an area where I feel I can make a difference. I don't think my style or way is for everyone, certainly. But there's been a niche that that has grown, and that's been very rewarding. I think if you can do what you love, do what you have an aptitude to do, and earn a nice living from it, I think that's a really great way to live a life.
Yeah, and I commend you, man. You're well respected. Everybody I talked to about me doing this interview today is like through the roof excited that they're going to get to tune in and hear this and get to know a little bit more about you as well. So with everything you just said there, we can put kind of a bow on that. If you can be known for one thing, what would it be?
I think it would be, and this is where I think I carry on my dad's legacy, and this is for helping people feel genuinely good about themselves.
That's awesome. So now we're going to take kind of everything we talked about here, maybe something additional if you'd like to add it. If we can give one message to our audience, which is on point with our mission, it's to inspire our audience to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. What would that message be?
I think it's moving. It's always looking to move from that I focus or me focus to an other focus, looking for ways to bring immense value to other people's lives, which is why John David Mann and I say that money is simply an echo of value. The thunder to values lightning.
Awesome. Guys, this is something I learned about Bob on our first call. He's a self-proclaimed animal fanatic, right? He serves on the board of directors with Furry Friends Adoption Clinic. If you can adopt one animal in the world, what would it be and why?
Or if I could?
I know you have a couple pets, right? But if you can adopt any animal in the world, doesn't matter what it is.
Man. Oh, there's so many wonderful ones.
Yeah.
Maybe a fox.
Last thing I like to do, my sign off in all my emails, do you recognize what it is? Is be great and be grateful, right? So gratitude. I know many of the people I follow, either on the show or books I've been reading and following what their daily routine looks like. Many of them wake up in gratitude and go to bed in gratitude.
That's so important. Gratitude is the trait which makes happiness possible, because you can have all the blessings in the world, not even the big ones, just anything, to be able to see and touch and taste and smell and have a roof over your head and a meal at night and friends and people in your network and everything that we just, but if you're not grateful for them, you simply cannot be happy.
Right. It's actually taking the time to mindfully think about what you truly do appreciate, and not simply just be like, oh, I'm glad of, and at surface level. It's actually how it makes you feel being in the moment. It's really powerful. What are 3 things that you're most grateful for?
That I'm grateful for, having had and still have wonderful parents, Secondly, grateful for having a relatively, healthy body. I mean, I'm 62 years old, and I'm like the Tin Man in the Wizard of Oz. So I need an oil can.
Sure.
But by and large, I've been very, very fortunate as far as that. And I'd say being blessed with a sort of a natural sense of empathy for others.
Yeah. I think those are great answers. I mean, obviously there's no right or wrong answer. It's what's important to you. I think it's important. Family, ties it right back to where it all started, right? Guys,
Exactly.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Bob, thank you so much for being here. Any last words you want to add to this at all, or do you feel like we hit on everything you wanted
I
to
think you do a great job hosting. You're a wonderful interviewer, and I just wish everybody the best of continued success. Stay safe, stay healthy, and then let's be ready to keep adding immense value to the lives of everyone we can.
And Bob, you did that. Give exceptional value and enjoy extraordinary results. That's what you guys can do when you tune in right here to the GoGiver or Burg.com and EndlessReferrals.com. Again, the 2 dates are July 20th and 21st, but stay in tune with Bob on Instagram as well at Real Bob Burg, B-U-R-G, and he's got cool content coming out all the time. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
I love you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. Check out more show notes and information on each episode at mikeduppodcast.com, M-I-K-E-D uppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.